Puff's Kleenexes are better than wait. Puff
He's got the Winkeys.
Puff's tissues are better than Kleenex tissues because they have lotion in them.
Little known fact about Dan: when he was 6 years old, he beat every single level in Candy Crush.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Dan is the smartest, dumbest person I've ever met in my entire life. He's had multiple majors over his collegiate career, including mechanical engineering, biology, and agronomy, which is the study of soil samples, apparently. But he's also thrown my mattress out a window. So, fun times.
Twice. Well, welcome to the Council of Nerds, everyone.
The Council of Nerds.
Wow. That was your intro piece, Dan?
I can't stop thinking about Logan's because I'm 25. Candy Crush wasn't
19 years ago.
Yeah. Welcome to the Council of Nerds, where we only discuss serious topics seriously. I'm your serious host, Dan, joined by my slightly more serious companions.
Hello,
Lurgan and Bruin.
Hi.
Oh, dude. So stupid.
Because we forgot to do this in the last episode, as Dan said, we are the Council of Nerds. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Google Podcast, generally anywhere podcasts are available. We also have an Instagram account, which you can use to find a link to our Discord, where we talk about really interesting things and get even stupider than we do when we actually talk to you. So,
holy crap. That's so funny.
Today, we don't really have a huge topic in mind. We just are... I think all three of us are pretty tired.
Yeah.
We're in the swing of college semesters, and I think we just have the Winkies. But Dan, I have to go back to the point that you chose for your intro block, which you've set an incredibly low bar for your intros to your preference of tissue.
And in no way are we sponsored.
Something no one talks about.
We're not sponsored by that, by the way.
If only.
We have to say that? Like, is that something we have to throw in there? Like,
I don't know. I see
but we could be.
Everyone else who makes podcasts or YouTube videos, they always like, if they bring something up, they're like, I'm not sponsored, by the way. So I just feel like maybe we should say it.
Because, we have
Puffs,
so many impressionable
if you're
viewers.
listening,
right?
Give us a call. 879 something or whatever.
Oh my gosh. Did you know that is the only phone number that is permanently discontinued in all phone services because of that freaking song?
Wait, what about the phone number
What
from
about the Soldier Boy?
Kiss Me Through the Phone. 867.
Maybe that one too.
What is it? 6758. I don't know.
309. Nope, I'm getting them confused.
8675309.
From that Soldier Boy song, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we don't have anything planned for today. Well, entirely. We kind of do, but not really. Sorry for missing last week. We had a complete mix-up of schedules and then just other life things that had to be done, and so we just didn't get to it. But that's okay. This week we don't. I mean, like we were gonna just talk about Dan, but then I think Dan forgot that we were just gonna talk about him. So
which is classic Dan.
Classic Dan. And so now we are gonna talk about, I guess, kind of like random theories that we ourselves have completely made up about different nerdy subjects. I believe Dan has one about Harry Potter.
Yes.
Brian, do you have one?
Yeah, I got a good one.
Okay, so he has a good one. And then I have a couple that are like, I kind of thought of them together, but they're about two completely different things. And that is Avatar: The Last Airbender and a Star Wars. And so, yeah, we're just going to do that. And yeah, it really though, like if you have any topic suggestions, we are super wanting them.
We're out of ideas.
No, we're not. But like, it's more of like we have ideas for like bigger things to talk about, but it's those like minor in between episodes that we're just kind of like, maybe we're not out of ideas. Maybe we're just tired of coming up with ideas.
Yeah, I think maybe
creativity takes a toll.
Maybe it's just time for us to tackle another big topic for a little while, and
that's a good idea.
Give ourselves something exciting to talk about. And I just restarted the Clone Wars, so
hey, I just restarted Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I was planning on doing Clone Wars next. But yeah,
I just started The Expanse, which isn't either of those shows or related. Space. So
okay. All right, so I kind of want to hear Dan's theory, Harry Potter theory, because he's been apparently kind of talking it up since he told us about it. So get a move on.
We know what it is. Fair warning,
I'm actually
we have not vetted this theory.
Not at all.
Know what it is? If he comes up with some random crap, we are very sorry. Just accept him for who he is.
Real theory talk. It's about everyone's probably third favorite villain, because third favorite, least favorite villain. They're kind of the same. Everyone's least favorite Harry Potter villain is Dolores Umbridge. Everyone hates her.
Right.
Then it's Voldemort, and then it's Bellatrix Lestrange. Right? So I was watching.
Say I actually like her more than Lucius Malfoy. I find him to be a sniveling little weenie boy.
For me, I really, really hate, like, probably more than Bellatrix and Lucius, I really hate Percy. In my mind, he's a complete villain.
It's because he's redheaded, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because Ginger's a bad name everywhere.
Yeah. He's like that stereotypical Ginger who everyone just wants to make fun of and kick.
Even his other Gingers.
You're going to say kill? I was like, wow, that took a dark turn.
No. Kick.
He's like course correction.
All right, anyway.
All right, Dan. Back to you.
My theory. I'm actually really excited about this one. It came to me. I was watching book 5. I literally just read it. What's that one called? Order of the Phoenix. Right? Yes. So I was watching that movie at my sister's, and I saw something really interesting. So the scene where Bellatrix just like just glocks Sirius, right?
Yeah.
Something I thought was really interesting that you don't see in any of the movies, and I haven't researched the book, is that Sirius doesn't die immediately. He gets hit, and he kind of stumbles around, right? Like he got hit by stupefy or something. And then he falls through the veil, and he dies. So I looked it up in the book. I was like, is it kind of the same in the book? And it talks about how when he was falling, Harry saw a look of fear and surprise on his godfather's face as he was dying, which, we know when Cedric was killed, it was just like stone face, right? Like there was no emotion because you die instantly. So I started thinking, I'm like, how come every Avada Kedavra kills people instantly, but Bellatrix's didn't kill Sirius instantly? And then later on, Harry uses Crucio on her, right? And it kind of works, kind of doesn't work, because you have to mean it. You have to mean the unforgivable curses. So I kind of started getting this theory. I was like, what if Bellatrix, for being as evil and as crazy as she is, like Sirius is still like the only family she has left in the world. And so she didn't mean that killing curse with her whole heart. And that's why Sirius didn't die instantly.
That's actually a really good theory. There's no that was a lot better than I actually thought it was gonna be. like I thought you were gonna come in with something so stupid, but I was gonna be there for it, and I was gonna support it in every way. I'm still supporting this one though, because that's actually a really cool theory, because he's got a point. I mean, like every single time that somebody seemed to get killed in Harry Potter, at least in my knowledge, I don't know, they seemed to just drop dead. Boom, done. But you're right, like Sirius it was said to have emotion. I like that theory. I don't know, but Brian's the expert on Harry Potter, so I kind of want to hear what he thinks.
So it's generally accepted that she didn't use the killing curse when she struck Sirius, and this is the reason why. Similarly to what Dan was saying, though she could have been using a deadly curse, the amount of concentration and power that it takes to muster those intense feelings to use the killing curse, especially in a dueling scenario, is extremely difficult, and the only person in Harry Potter canon to be known to master that is Voldemort. And we see that in the subsequent duel with Dumbledore and Voldemort, that he continues to cast killing curses while dueling Voldemort at Harry. And Dumbledore uses golden statues of the fountain to block those.
Oh yeah.
But it's extremely difficult to muster it in the first place. But then if you're concentrating on dueling, and Sirius was no slouch in terms of his magical ability, and it was more than a match for Bella. It was his own hubris that got in his way. It's a big word. He just got cocky. And but yeah, it is described as I believe in the text it still says it was a jet of green light.
Yeah, I think so.
Trying to find the text just
it's
so
at the very end of chapter 35.
While Brian's looking that up, this was something I saw on Instagram. My friend sent it to me. I also saw it in my feed as well. I don't remember who posted it, but this is just a cool idea that somebody came up with. Sorry, just bumped my mic. It says John Bettle came up with it, but I don't know if that's true. I don't know who John Bettle is. But it's somebody's idea.
You don't know who John Bettle?
No. It's like an idea that somebody came up with, which I am in full support of doing. Like I would really hope they would do it, but I know they won't because J.K. Rowling is stubborn in every way. And but anyway, it's like they say a movie, but I think it'd be cooler for it to be a TV series. But you get Adam Driver to play a young Severus Snape, in his years as a Death Eater, and then his transition into Dumbledore's inside man. I think that would be really cool. I also think they could do some cool flashback scenes to when he was just a kid, and use that kid with the big nose from what's that show with the Upside Down and the Demogorgon or whatever it's called?
Queen's Gambit.
Stranger Things. Thanks, Dan. And so
good show though, Queen's Gambit. I actually really enjoyed that.
I've never even heard of that show.
I haven't seen it yet.
About chess.
Oh. But yeah, anyway, you could do that kid's in his teenage years, but you could do teenage Snape using that kid. I mean, he's got a big nose and he can do the long black hair. Looks just like Snape. And then you got Adam Driver, who has a big nose and long black hair. And then you had, who's the guy who died who played Snape?
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, that guy. He had a big nose and they put a long black wig on him. So, I don't know. I think that'd be cool.
I think Adam Driver's voice,
but I think he
betray him for the part.
I don't know, dude. That guy's a good actor. I think he could do it.
I think he's a great actor, but I just think accents are difficult, especially
True.
if you're trying to recreate an Alan Rickman-esque kind of accent. If you're trying to imbue that kind of that'd be really difficult.
True.
But I don't think it's a bad idea. But I could see some difficulty.
I think he could do it. I don't know. I look at Peter Dinklage as a really good reference for that, because Peter Dinklage, sorry, that's a weird name, Dinklage, is full blown American, right? And
American.
he I actually thought he was British for a really long time because in Game of Thrones he does a really good British accent, but he's full blown American. He's also an elf.
Red blood.
So to answer the previous question, the text does not actually explicitly indicate the color of the jet of light. It says Harry saw Sirius duck Bellatrix's jet of red light, and then he laughs and says, "You can do better than that." And then it says the second jet of light hit him squarely on the chest. That's all it says, the second jet of light. So a lot of people are taking that to assume that because it wasn't differentiated, it was the same color as the first jet of light, which was red, which would lead to more of a stupefy or Expelliarmus kind of a thing that would jar him to the point where he would fall. And I lean more to stupefy. That would cause him to fall back into the veil, and that's what actually killed him.
So
And
the
then
veil
there's theories
killed
on
him.
the veil itself. There's theories on the veil itself that that's actually what they used for executions in the wizarding world.
Kind of like
that,
in
if you were sentenced to death, you were sent through the veil, and it's just basically a portal to whatever the afterworld is.
kind of like Fantastic Beasts, that like execution room they had.
Like the goo,
Yeah,
like the
the
acid tar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I heard a theory about the veil that it was the Peveril brothers. The theory was that like it was their first attempt to become like masters over death.
Yeah, so there's a theory that lends to that the pensive was the first crack at trying
The
to
stone?
do one of them. But the veil was the first crack at the resurrection stone. As also the theory lends that they were inspired by Thestrals. Because only the dead can hear the voices coming from the veil. Only those who have seen death can hear the voices that come from the veil. They can only see Thestrals. There's a lot of that throughout the whole thing. But it seemed as though it was a first try at trying to make it an access point to the dead to try to communicate with them or to bring them back over to our side. And it ended up being kind of not that. The opposite of that, actually. I think the pensive was rationalized to be the first attempt at the invisibility cloak, but for not like at the invisibility cloak per se, but it was a way to understand where you've been and what you've done to avoid making mistakes, to avoid death, kind of a thing. But I don't remember what the first attempt was. But there's a big theory for that. That's really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like these kind of episodes where we just talk about stuff and educate each other. It's great.
It's chill. I actually just came up with a really good bigger topic for us to talk about in the future, by the way. But do you want to do your theory?
See,
Brian?
we're not out of ideas.
Oh, me? Yeah. So it's actually Lord of the Rings. I was telling the guys before the episode started, I've been doing more study up on Lord of the Rings because in terms of what we used to jokingly call the pillars of nerdology, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter.
Throwback.
What a callback. That was almost the name of the podcast. But that Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings has always been one of the most beautiful and the most impressive to me in terms of what it is and just the amount of stuff that's there.
I think it's safe to call Lord of the Rings kind of the origins of nerdism, geekism, whatever you want to call it.
For a lot of people, I would. Yeah. Then you could go as far back to what inspired Tolkien, kind of a thing too. But yeah, I mean, what's impressive about Lord of the Rings in general is you had Tolkien, who was, and for all intents and purposes, primarily a scholar. This is a guy his job was studying languages, and the way that he described learning a new language was to him the same as tasting a new wine. You get to experience something new. You find the little nuances and different things that you love about this language versus another, and you don't like one more than another per se. You just find the differences and you learn to love and notice them. He just was a guy who loved to learn, and he was trying to get published in a more serious sense for a very long time. And then he was telling his kids bedtime stories, and it was basically The Hobbit. And his kids were like, you should, turn this into a book. And he's like, yeah, maybe. And this is one of my favorite stories that I've heard about him. He was really poor at one point in his life before he got published, and he was doing professor work. And he got a gig just grading papers for a fellow professor for extra money. And he had an exam. It was back in the day, it was all written exams, right? So everything was written out. And this moron, who I'm sure failed his test, failed to fill out the back of the exam.
Idiot.
So he flipped over the piece of paper and he wrote, "It began in the hole with a hobbit," or something. Like that's what, like, the opening line of The Hobbit. What, I can't remember it right now, but it began in a hole with a hobbit.
A hole in the
And
ground.
he like,
yeah.
and he went, and he's like, "What's a hobbit?" Like, that was his thought. He didn't know what a hobbit was. Like, he just thought of the word. Like, this was like that, but that was the genius of this guy. He would just think of something and then figure out what it was and find a
Inspired.
path for it. It's just really cool. And so I was talking to these guys. There's a few things that he deliberately didn't allow himself to know about Middle Earth, and so that he would have some mystery even in the story that he was writing. And one of them that I didn't talk to them about, but one of them that he was asked about and he never really gave a straight answer, was on how do the orcs increase in number. And it's just through studying, it's led me to accept what I believe is the reality. Because a lot of people believe that there's no female orcs. But there is a line in the Silmarillion that talks about the orcs and says that they multiplied after the fashion of the children of Eru Iluvatar. For those who don't know, Eru Iluvatar is the god of the planet that you have Middle Earth on. There's a deity system. It's a long story.
It's a big system.
Yeah. And so that leads you to believe that there would be, you think about elves and you think of men, there's a sexual component to their recreation. So that would lead you to believe that there would be female orcs. And I've generally accepted the fact that there are female orcs. And the reason why people don't believe there's female orcs, for me, is the same reason a lot of people don't believe there's female dwarves. And it's because their appearance is very similar to that of their male counterparts.
It's the beard.
Also, it's the beards. Also, female dwarves very, very, very rarely will ever leave the cities that they are born in. It's very uncommon in dwarven culture for women to leave the areas they're from, and they're very much like when dwarves go to war, they are the last line of defense is the women, and they're very capable of defending their home.
Shield maidens.
Very much so, yeah, in that regard. But I feel the same way in terms of the orcs. And this is excluding, for me, the orcs of Mordor. Those, for me, are an amalgamation of even further corruption of what orcs were originally. And there's a lot deeper stuff there. But I feel like the orcs of Mirkwood and those around the area of Lorien and up into the northern areas have a reproduction aspect to their existence. And I thought that was really interesting, but it's something he never really gave a straight answer on. And so I've just kind of taken it upon myself to kind of answer that question. And the idea of a really furious female orc warrior kind of terrifies the crap out of me.
That'd be terrifying. Yeah.
Right. Why am I getting turned on? This is weird. But it's
I didn't even see that coming.
Why is this happening? But because I can't be serious the whole time. I have to make a joke. But
Right.
yeah, Lord of the Rings. If
offset.
anybody here has not taken the opportunity to not only watch the films, but to just research more about how in depth some of the stuff is out there, do yourselves a favor, go and research Lord of the Rings, because honestly, there should be a major just for Tolkien studies at this point in colleges, because there's just so much information you can learn from what this man has created, and he deserves the notoriety and the respect from everybody out there. So
I actually heard that so I know that there's classes in some random colleges where you can study Elvish, the language.
You can get a Rosetta Stone for Elvish.
Yeah, and I actually recently from a kid in my class who he transferred to the school I'm at now from, I want to say UVU or somewhere in Utah. I don't remember which school. But he said that he took a class that was literally just the study of literature from Tolkien. And so all they did was study Tolkien's writings. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I would just take that because that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really should at every school, though. That should just be part of, like, the generals, is, like, Tolkien studies.
A class about credit and actual things that are important in finance.
Right.
And then a class about Tolkien
studies, yeah. I was going to find there's this YouTube channel that I follow, or I'm subscribed to. It's all about Lord of the Rings. They're super smart dudes who, they go in, like, hardcore in-depth stuff about Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, Middle-earth stuff. I'll put it in the Discord here. All right, well, then I have my theories are kind of like joined together as one. Like I kind of formed I was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. I started rewatching it recently, and have you guys seen it, by the way?
Yeah.
Dan, have you seen it?
Sorry, I missed a lot. My internet was splotchy.
Have you seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes, I love it. I actually have an avatar drawing right above.
Oh, nice.
My gosh, look at that. What the freak? Right above my bed.
Dan's got piss stains out the hoo-ah.
Hoo-ah.
No. Okay, anyway, so you know the episode in Avatar: The Last Airbender when it's kind of like a flashback of when Aang is told that he's the Avatar, and they're like, he's like, how did you know? And he's like, oh, we gave you these toys and you chose from them or whatever, and these were relics from old avatars, so like we just knew it was you. And I was like, well, in my head I was like, well, that's not a great system, but okay. And so my theory was formed by that thought, though. That's why I bring it up, because my thought is like, that's a terrible system. Like the Avatar is supposed to be like the guardian of peace and harmony in their world, right? And he's master of all four elements. And they literally, at least for this one, right, for Aang, they found out because he chose some toys when he was a baby. And I was like, okay, I mean, there is an actual possibility that another baby could have done the same thing because they're just babies. But my theory is, what if actually every single bender, not every single person, because we know not every single person is a bender in their world, but what if every single person who can bend an element actually has the ability to bend all four elements, but they like would have to work harder for it? You know what I mean? Like they could do it, but it's actually like, but they specify like, oh, this is the chosen avatar, he's next in line or whatever. And so only he can do all four, and he trains at it. I mean, you know, the avatar has to train really hard anyway to master all four elements. And so it's just, I was like thinking like, what if every bender could actually bend all the elements, but they never try because it's too much work, because they have to work really hard at their own element. But like if they did the actual study and tried to do it, given I don't know all the science behind being a bender in this universe, but I don't know.
Science.
So my
bendingology.
Yeah, so my theory was tied to Star Wars kind of in a way, because I was thinking about I was thinking about the midichlorians, right? So I was thinking like, oh, midichlorians, maybe that's like kind of a same sort of system they have in Avatar with bending, right? Like they have a higher, it's not midichlorians, but they have like a higher count of something. And I was watching Star Wars Episode 1 the other day, and I was curious on why people hated midichlorians so much, like the idea of midichlorians. Because fans, that was like one thing when Episode 1 came out. Fans were like furious that these things called midichlorians were put into Star Wars. Because so I looked it up. I was like, why did people hate it so much? Because I've never cared. I always thought it was just kind of a cool thing. And the reason people hated it so much is because they liked the idea of the Force being more of like something that existed, like more of like a spiritual existence that existed between everything, between, like Yoda said, between the rocks, the trees, man, ship. It was like a more spiritual thing. And people thought that midichlorians kind of erased all that and put in a scientifical explanation for the Force. And so I was like curious. I was like, oh, I can see why you'd be mad at that. But then I was curious on like more about the midichlorians, and I found that the midichlorians doesn't erase the spiritual aspect of the Force. It's basically like the midichlorian is like an organism that exists inside everybody, but the midichlorians influence things, and so the higher the midichlorian count, the higher your Force power can be, but the spirit of the Force still exists. And so I found that really interesting. So I was like thinking, does that mean that anybody could technically be a Force user, but they would just have to work harder at it, right? So like Yoda and Anakin, they have super high midichlorian counts. Mace Windu have super high midichlorian counts. So what about like, I don't know, like Chewbacca? He probably has a lower midichlorian count, but if he worked really hard at it and focused really hard, could he use the Force? And so that's why I was thinking those two are kind of similar in like, do benders have like a midichlorian count sort of thing, to where like just because the Avatar has a higher count doesn't mean that they couldn't also use all the elements.
That's interesting thought. I have actually randomly recently had thoughts about midichlorians as well, and someone asked me like, because I mentioned midichlorians and I'm like, I don't really like the idea of midichlorians, and like, why? And my answer, and this is somewhat on the pipeline of what you were talking about, is for me, midichlorians made it seem like the Force was limited. That's what it made it feel like, is that kind of like what you were talking about. Depending on your level of midichlorians, that this is your highest potential. And this guy's born with this many midichlorians, so he can do these things, but you'll never be able to do the things that this guy can do because you don't have the same level of midichlorians. And for me, the reason I liked the way the Force was described in the original trilogy, it was anybody could, or anybody who's deemed a Force user, because even that term wasn't really even introduced in the original trilogy. It just seemed like it was like there was endless possibilities, that even this kid who has only been studying it for, I think, culminating by the time you hit Jedi, it's 4 years that he's been doing Force training.
Remember. It's probably
because it's 3 years between 4 and 5, and then it's just a year after 5 that it goes to 6.
Yeah.
But he's able to do amazing things, and so for me, it just felt like it was limiting things a little bit. And I've chilled off a lot since I've just from when I guess really I mopped up my dad's feelings about midichlorians because I was too young to care.
Yeah.
But my dad was so like, I don't like that. That's dumb.
Yeah.
And so, but I've definitely backed up off it a bit. But it always just felt like it was putting a limit on something that I felt like, in my mind, I always wanted it to be like, you could do it if you just tried. And that's kind of what you're talking about, though. Like, even if you have a lower midichlorian count, maybe you can still do it. You will just have to concentrate harder. And so I didn't even take that concept into consideration. So I appreciate your point of view because it makes me feel happier about midichlorians.
You're welks. See, I was like, I don't know.
I like it.
Because like with the midichlorians, my parents never like hated, they weren't that into Star Wars to the point of like hating something that came out with the prequels. And so I never had like feelings passed down to me like that, but I don't know, I actually liked the midichlorians just because for me, I don't know, I think it just depends on the person, because for me I was like, I like more explanation. If somebody was like, "Oh yeah, it just exists and anyone can do it," it's like, okay, well then no one's special. You know what I mean? That's how it is for me. It's like in The Incredibles, like if everyone is super, then no one's super. And so for me, it was like if anybody can be a Jedi, even that dweeb Luke, then it's not that cool because Luke's not that cool. Unpopular opinion.
Well, I guess for me, it's like anybody, like you're saying, like anybody could be the Avatar.
Yeah.
Right. But they would have to prove themselves to be special by working their freaking butt off.
Yeah.
To be able to do it. Like for me, they're still special. It's just a different realm. Like it's a different category. Like
it's
just
type
they just had to. It's like I don't know. I like there's rich people in the world, but there's rich people that worked for it, and there's rich people that got it passed down to them, and those are two different people for me in terms of like impressiveness.
Here's another here's another explanation for that. Anybody can be in the NBA. Some people just have to work at it harder. Like, crap, I just forgot his name. Oh, Spud Webb. Spud Webb was, I think he was 5'5", 5 feet 5 inches tall. And people that short don't, you don't go in the NBA. You're
kidding.
Yeah. And Spud Webb ended up beating Michael Jordan in a dunk contest. So it's like, but he had to work, that guy probably had to work. So Michael Jordan's super good, but like
vertical leap.
Yeah. I mean, like Michael Jordan's 6'7", and he's an amazing player. And I don't know the workload that he put into playing ball, but I would imagine that at 5'5", you're going to have to work harder than somebody who's 6'7",
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah. See? We're not
it's
complete
like I
nerds.
have to work harder at being beautiful than you two.
No.
I know sports.
Sports?
Basketball,
I like
dude.
sports, and I don't care who knows.
I'll play basketball.
From shooting hoops to the Superdome.
I like what you were saying with how like anyone could be like a what's it called?
A force
like
user?
bender or like
a bender, yeah.
A master of all the elements.
Avatar?
Yeah, because like I was thinking about it, and yeah, Avatar kind of like mirrors Star Wars, like because there's Avatar: The Last Airbender and like the little background they give, and then there's Legend of Korra, which like retcons some of the stuff.
Right.
Because in Avatar: The Last Airbender, they learned bending from badger moles, from dragons, from air bison, and then from the moon, right? And so yeah, it's like anyone should be able to bend.
Yeah.
But then in Legend of Korra,
no, go ahead.
They got the bending from lion turtles back when the physical world and the spirit world were all one place. So it's kind of cool that they kind of like retconned it. It was like, oh yeah, anyone, it kind of like exists in nature too. Oh, you have to be given it by some other being.
Yeah. Avatar's cool. Did you guys know Dave Filoni directed some of the first few episodes in season 1?
What?
Yeah.
No.
For people who don't know, Dave Filoni is
Dave.
One of the top directors and one of the top executive producers on The Mandalorian. He was also like the sidekick to George Lucas for the Clone Wars animated show of directing.
He's the
Dave
Padawan.
Filoni is Star Wars.
Yeah, he's a G. That's why. So
at this point,
he is life. He is love.
In Clone Wars, and then it was later put in Star Wars Episode 3 in Revenge of the Sith. There's a clone whose helmet has an arrow on it, and his name is his name is like Appa, like Clone Trooper Appa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that's in there.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think he's the Avatar.
Probably. He's probably Aang in disguise. I think this is a shorter episode, but I did want to say I have a bigger the topic I thought of halfway through this. That I think we spoke about, like we didn't go into it or anything, but we talked about how we were watching it. The Dark Crystal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And have you watched that yet on Netflix?
No.
You need to get on that, bruh.
Is it new? Is it old?
Well,
I mean,
it's
a year old.
Yeah. There's also a movie from the 80s, which is hard to watch, but
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen the movie in a long time.
It's been a couple years.
Is Dark
And that-
Crystal: Age of Resistance.
Yeah.
Yes. There's only one season.
What's really sad is that they're only doing one season. Netflix
I know,
dropped
it's
it.
so good.
Makes me so sad.
Oh yeah,
somebody
Dan, it'll
else
be
picks it
really
up.
hard. Like even that new Netflix stuff, it's kind of hard to take seriously when it's just gelflings on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's so fun,
those are
though, dude.
Those are the little furry dudes.
The fizz gigs, man. Dude, the
Gigs.
show's super fun, so we should get into it. I'd love to get into that show. You have to watch the movie though.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix, I think.
Really? You
It's
know,
on Disney. It's on Disney Plus if you don't have Netflix.
Is it?
I have
I
Disney
believe
Plus.
so.
We should Oh, that show I was talking about, The Expanse earlier. I think that'd be a pretty good one. It's like when humanity first starts colonizing space, like they're in the solar system, and there's like a cold war between Earth, Mars, and then like people in the asteroid belt. It's pretty cool. I just finished the first season.
What's it on?
Really fun fact. It's on Amazon Prime.
Oh.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is featured in that show, and they have the biggest spaceship ever built. It's called the LDSS Nauvoo.
What is it, like a giant giant conference center?
It's got a giant angel Morona on top, just like the temples do.
Nobody.
That is dope.
Nobody goes to
Yeah.
visit. Like no non-members go to visit because they're like, no coffee. I'm not going on that ship.
No, yeah, they made it because of Earth has like population control rules, and they're like, nah, let's go. So they're going to like another planet. That's their plan.
That's hilarious.
Nice.
All right, well,
Yeah, it's a good episode, boys. We got some ideas to go forward. I like it.
I did too.
Me, 2, 3.
3. Like Brian said at the beginning, you can find us on just about any podcast platform: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Anchor, whatever. We're just about everywhere on there. Google Podcasts as
Tinder.
well. Not on Tinder. We have a Discord.
You guys aren't.
If you want to join our Discord, which is you have to actually, if you want to listen to this podcast, you have to join our Discord and you have to be active in it. You can find the invite link in our Instagram bio. If you cannot find it or it does not work, just add a comment on an Instagram post and we will fix it. But it should work.
Or on a YouTube video.
Yeah. We don't film ourselves, but we have YouTube for people who want to listen on YouTube, or if that's all they have.
Maybe if you guys get more friends to watch our stuff, we will one day have the ability to show our beautiful faces.
That's true, actually.
I'm trying to make friends. It's hard.
Dude, I have had like some kids in my class, I think, join in. I don't really know them, but I think they listen to a few episodes. So
Hello,
thanks,
kids from Logan's class.
Thanks, kids. They're not kids; they're like adults.
Shout out to them and those Irish.
I think some of the kids from the youth group that I'm a part of might be listening.
They better. Dude, yeah, the 1% in Ireland though. Those Irish guys and the 1%. I don't know if they're guys or girls. Shout out.
Represent.
Conor McGregor's fighting tonight.
I support United Ireland.
All right.
Sorry, that was really political.
I don't know the politics of Ireland, so if you're offended by that and you're from Ireland, please don't, because we're not from there and Dan doesn't know what he's talking about. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Adios.
Bye.
Bye.
The Council of Nerds.